looking at how stress impacts the developing brain. So, at the extreme of things, right? If someone is malnourished, doesn't have access to a safe home environment, right? You can imagine there's a lot of amygdala fight or flight freeze going on. When brains are stressed, whether that be physiologically, right? Not enough sleep, not enough food, water, no safe environment. That amygdala in the center of our brain is super active and it disrupts our ability to focus. We know kiddos aren't the best focusers or planners or organizers because of that frontal piece. But could you imagine if you already have maybe, right, you have a developing brain, maybe attentionally or planning, organizing, you're not the best at it because we all have different strengths. And then this amygdala kicks on, right? This light switch gets flipped. It's going to make learning even more difficult. And then also you yourself feel not motivated, feel super kind of agitated or irritable and might act out more. And it's more, because you're frustrated because you're seeing peers do certain things, but you can't get your body to do the same thing. So I know it's kind of the extreme end of things, right? But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of, stressors, physiological, mental, environmental, that all impact how well our brain develops. There's examples of this, from our perspective working with kiddos, it could look like there's a delay in a milestone, or maybe when you saw them before summer break, right, they hit like a learning milestone, and then all of a sudden they come back and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid looks like they regress behaviorally because now maybe they're behaving more like a second grader than like a third or fourth grader. And, just to kind of highlight, like, behavioral regressions, and kind of learning regressions, sometimes they happen. It can happen in the face of really intense stressors, or just think about inconsistent environments, right? There's a lot of, being at home sometimes can be a lot more inconsistent than being in a school environment. And so these things can happen, but I think kind of the good news is that, right, kid brains are also super flexible. And so there's a lot of catching up that they can do if there is a delay or if there is some kind of behavioral shift from what you're used to seeing. And again, it doesn't have to do with, necessarily pure motivation or a choice to behave a certain way, right? But if a kiddo is already maybe a little bit dysregulated, their amygdala is turned on, we know they can't plan and organize as well as others. And then maybe what they see, how family units kind of interact with that too, right? Certain behaviors might be inadvertently reinforced at home versus at the school. So it's kind of thinking about too, right? Like everyone's lived life context and what kind of contextual stressors are happening at home. And I feel like that a lot of times can help explain too why we're seeing shifts in milestones, right? Or just these behavioral regressions. And I know you all know this too, but just thinking broadly too about, right, kiddos' access to social determinants of health, toxins or substances in the home, just all those things are going to potentially negatively impact the brain. But the more structure and predictability we can insert into their lives while they're at school can help them bounce back faster.